comes Gabe with a golf cart with all my shit sitting on the back, and John Fell in the front, looking very timid. And we throw the stuff in the back while the truck is sitting on the fucking street, right? And this motherfucker, and close the thing and hug Gabe. John, get in the truck. Now we have got to figure out how to do these one-way streets in reverse to get back to the hotel. So I put the gimmick of the address in the hotel, or of the hotel in the GPS. And of course, that's going to take us, actually, as we found out, to the wrong side on the one-way street. But anyway, we start going around. Now I didn't know there was a Chinatown in Philadelphia. But there is a Chinatown in Philadelphia. Well, I wasn't aware of that. That's not where the Ribbit was, that we always used to go to, and that's all I used to see of Philadelphia. But anyway, so now we're going down through the middle of Chinatown, and it's Sunday afternoon. The one thing I thought, if I leave on Sunday afternoon, there'll be no traffic. The fucking everybody in the city it's bumper to bumper everywhere. There's people walking up and down the fucking sidewalks. It's jammed. Who goes downtown on Sunday? For fuck's sake. Anyway, this place is jammed and these streets are narrow, and I'm driving down this one-way street with somebody on the left of me and trying to keep an eye out that we're not going that fast, but when you get a chance to move, you take it because you don't often. And as I'm driving down this, trying to keep an eye on these people in front of me, all of a sudden bam, something hits the truck right next to John Fell's head right over there, and fucking is scared. I think he may have pooped himself just slightly, and it scared me too. And what the fuck was that? The streets are so tight and it's so close. Some truck or something, if you lost a left-hand rear view mirror last Sunday in Philadelphia down in Chinatown, fuck you. Park closer to the fucking curb. Because my mirror's collapsible and it just bent it in, but it didn't fuck it up. But anyway, bam, I'm thinking, what the fuck? Now shit's hitting us. It's incoming, right? And we have to go around the block again, but finally we get back to the taxi lane in front of the fucking hotel. And I have John wait in the truck while I run up and get my shit. And I run my shit down and throw that in the truck. And he grabs his shit and I hug him and he takes off to get his car. And now I've got to find my way back to this 676 and get the fuck out of this town. Which the first 10 miles took 52 minutes on a Sunday afternoon to get the fuck out of, and it was bumper to bumper coming in town too. And by that time, I was vibrating. I said, you know what? I can make it home. It's only 700 miles. I'm going to stay ahead of this fucking hurricane. The weather's incoming. I could be trapped in the mountains of West Virginia. So I rerouted my trip and took the Pennsylvania Turnpike all the way across the state. By the way, then I was on it 300 miles, $34 fucking dollars. What a racket. Is the governor of Pennsylvania a Republican?
I am not sure.
I think we need to check in on that. I believe I know. I may be wrong, but fuck. I didn't stop for 500 miles till I got just south of Columbus, Ohio, before I was ready to admit defeat and say I cannot drive any further, but I'm far enough away from that fucking place. And then the next day, of course, I get up and it's raining, as you recall, because we had recorded our little special edition. It's raining, and it rained on me for the following 190 miles. It rained and pissed on me on the rest of my trip back to Louisville until I got to the Jefferson County line, and suddenly it stopped raining and the fucking clouds parted and there was a ray of sunshine that shone upon me down from the heavens, and I almost heard hallelujah. And I was home. And that's why I don't leave town more often.
Will you ever be leaving town again on your birthday weekend?
Fuck, I always say that and then I always have to go back on it. But no, in all honesty, I want to thank every one of the fans and wrestling people that and the Reed Pop people with Gabe Yoakum that I interacted with over the entire weekend. Was the nicest and most fun I've had in ages. And for the people at the Philadelphia Convention Center, the average driver around the city of Philadelphia, all the homeless people and everybody else, and whoever built that fucking garage, and especially that guard at the guard shack, fuck you. Oh, good Lord. Here's how stressful a trip it was. I only gained 2 pounds. And I had when I got to Columbus, Ohio, all I'd had to eat that day was a fucking burger, a cold Burger King burger from a rest stop on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. So I ate 2 triple cheeses and fucking large fry and a chocolate frosty, and still only gained actually I think it was like 1.5 pounds for the week.
When you're so low in weight, does it help you with your knees?
Yes, my knees do feel better. Many other things still hurt, but my knees do feel better. So my left knee, my right knee, even my wee knee when I'm lighter. They feel.
All right, I set you up perfectly. I didn't realize.
Yeah. But anyway, that's why that I asked John Fell at the end of the weekend, you want to be a celebrity? He's like, no. He had panic look on his face. Like, no, get me the fuck out of here.
The best thing was those T-shirts. The T-shirt I saw that John Fell was wearing in pictures that said John Fell in Baltimore with this little figure that fell.
Yes. It was, as a matter of fact, I think he should market those. Yes. I offered to put them on JimCornette.com, but he wanted too big of a cut. And I said, well, but anyway, so if you would like to see me at one of my limited personal appearances for the rest of the year, they are as follows. October 27th in Fort Wayne, Indiana at the Heroes and Legends event. I'm going to be doing a live experience Q&A that afternoon also, as well as being at the Fan Fest and the big matches that evening. I'm going to travel far away from my home at the Louisville SuperCon downtown. I'm going to go all the way downtown at the International Convention Center on November 30th to December 2nd. And we'll have more on that soon, but come on out. Jerry the King Lawler will be there. That's his birthday weekend, so everybody should bring the King some birthday presents. And, of course, December 8th and 9th in Nashville, Tennessee at the historic fairgrounds for the Nashville Comic Con. It's going to be the 35th anniversary reunion of myself, Bobby Eaton, and Dennis Condrey, the original – well, not the original, but, the second – my original Midnight Express. You know what I mean. First time that Dennis has been out in a while, and we want to see everybody there. We're going to talk more about that as it comes along also. But as you can understand from my previous tirade, why I don't do more things like this. It's like I'm like, what was the guy's name in the Little Abner cartoons that the Black Cloud just kept following him around?
Jim Cornette.
Well, there you go. All right, I've left myself open for that. All right, what are you doing on your fucking show here before we talk about more assholes that we're mad at?
Well, we can talk about more assholes in a moment. I want to mention a couple things. This week on Ron Fuller's Studcast, available at fullerpod.com or wherever you find your favorite podcast, part 1 of a series where Ron is really looking in depth at the Georgia wrestling war. It's a really interesting series here, Jim, because obviously you think of the Fullers and the Welches as being intimately involved, but early on, Ron wasn't involved at all. He was kind of detached from the whole thing because he was busy with his own career. So he actually tried to put things back together. He spoke to Roy Lee Welch, his cousin. He spoke to his brother. He spoke to Bob Armstrong, several others. He's been reading stuff to expand upon what he already knew about it. And like I said, the first of a series, interesting stuff in here, some stuff that no one's ever heard before. So check that out at fullerpod.com, or once again, Ron Fuller's Studcast, wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
That's the thing with Ron is he's one of the last guys who, if he wasn't there, at least his family was there, and he has contacts that were there. And I'm glad that he's taken this. He's taken this as history as seriously as like a Johnny Cash of it, who wanted to lay down the great American songs, etc. And we've always called Ron the Johnny Cash of wrestling storytellers. So I'm glad that he's putting all this out there on and recording it. I started to say on tape, so that it will be around.
It is great stuff. Everyone should check that out. I also want to make mention once again, the brand new Mid-South Wrestling television review with myself and Mike Mills, available at midsouthpod.com or wherever you find your favorite podcast. This week, we look at an episode, Jim, where for some reason Bill Watts was trying to push Paul Ellering as a top babyface, or at least as a babyface, who immediately does a heel interview with back and forth with Reeser Bowden. Of all the people you want to go back and forth with, Reeser Bowden may not be on the top of that list, but it's quite humorous. We talk about that and much more. The Mid-South Wrestling Television Review. And this week,
I remember that actually because, Paul had been up here in Memphis when they first brought him from the AWA when he was just a green bodybuilder, and he was trying to be a babyface and just wasn't natural. And then all of a sudden, when Lawler got hurt, he got the chance to switch heel, and he really started getting his shit together and working with Jimmy Hart, and he was an entertaining heel. And then by the time that he showed up down there, he'd had the bleached blonde hair, and he was kind of doing a superstar Billy Graham thing. And I'm thinking, reading the Cowboy's mind, and that's a difficult journey sometimes, that he was trying to be a superstar Billy Graham kind of heel baby face kind of thing. I may be mistaken. I haven't seen it in 35 years.
Maybe, but you get like interactions like this. Like, again, he's talking to Reeser Bowden. He's like, the land of the free and the home of the foot-long hot dog, if you can dig it. And then Reeser be like, yeah. I can dig it. Yeah. The whitest guy in the world. But check that out, Mid-South Wrestling Television Review. And this week on the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership. Yom Kippur Star Wars. Hear me, David Bixenspan, Dan Farron, Vandal Drummond, Kurt Brown, Jerry Gray, and I think that's it, talking about whatever it is that comes to mind this week on the Super Podcast, one of our popular Star Wars features at 605pod.com. Yes, Jim?
Wait a minute. I was on the Thanksgiving Star Wars. I was on the Christmas Star Wars. I was on the 4th of July Star Wars. I don't remember the Yom Kippur Star Wars.
It started when the Von Erich started going to Israel. They became very big over there. Yeah.
I got the influence. I see.
Well, search for it wherever you find your favorite podcast, the 605 Super Podcast. And don't forget, you can get 605 t-shirts and Mothership t-shirts at tinyurl.com/superpod store. The Mothership!
Snuck that in on me. All right. Should we address the elephant in the room, the big 800-pound gorilla, what everybody's been talking about for the past few weeks? Where are we on YouTube? Should we go ahead and just get this over with?
I don't know. Due to pending litigation, I don't know how much we should say or not say here on the air.
Well, no, you've been telling me to shut up for too long now because, all cooler heads will prevail. And I've been going, yank this shit down for about a month and a half. For everybody who's been asking about what's happened to our various YouTube channels while one is gone, one has not been updated, et cetera, we have to go back. And for the people who criticize me, who always say that Cornette never admits when he's wrong, I do. It's so seldom people don't usually remember it. But Cornette doesn't admit when he was wrong, or it won't take any fault. It starts with me being an idiot. It starts with me being an idiot and not understanding how these fancy internet machineries work these days in these modern times. Because you know as well as Brian, do you know a more unlikely internet sensation or YouTube celebrity or downloadable figure or whatever the fuck I am? Do you know anybody that in that particular position that wants to and does spend less time on any form of internet?
Not only do you spend less time on it, you also have less of an understanding how any of it works.
Yes, and I'm not particularly anxious to learn any of it because it just makes me mad. And you'll be able to tell when I'm completely retired because I won't have a computer. I will be sitting at home in my castle reading a book, learning things. But anyway, I digress. It starts with me being an idiot because for quite some time I would see on Twitter and I would see people would retweet it and et cetera, that some guy was putting up clips of the shows that we would do. This was even before you came along and smartened me up. And comments that I would make and et cetera on the YouTube. And I'm like, well, that's good. Spreads my word. I agree. I like that I said this. I want more people to hear that I said that. It'll advertise the podcast, And I made mention when you came along here a couple years ago, I can't even remember how it came up, but I said, well, YouTube, that's just free videos, right? You can't make any money at that. And you said, oh, yes, you can. And I said, so you mean this guy that's been putting all this stuff up of mine is making money off of it? You said, oh, yes, he is. I said, tell me more. And that's how that you and I became partners in the Jim Cornette's Talking Sense channel. Because that was the first time that I was surprised you could make money at that free video shit on the internet. But I must admit that the guy had done a good job of using my stuff because he had tens and tens of thousands of subscribers, right? But you also said,